Welcome to the InFLOW podcast. I am your host, Michelle Bosch. I see a gaping hole across society that focuses on the outer work and forgets about the inner work, when what we really need is to bridge the gap between prosperity and spirituality to live a life in flow, with inflows of light, inflows of cash, inflows of creativity, inflows of grace in our lives. Each week, join me for powerful messages and interviews that will leave you inspired and ready to step into flow in your higher work. So now, let's go. Welcome to the InFLOW podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Bosch. I'm very excited to come to you today. I have been, over the last couple of days, I have been doing our 2021 yearly planning. And in doing that yearly planning, I've had to basically not just go through the mechanics basically of planning the year and setting up dates and goals, but in establishing those goals, I've had to not just bring in mechanics, but also bring in mindset. And so I wanted to give you a sneak preview behind the scenes of how a top land flipper is making decisions for the new year. So, like I said, we've been doing yearly planning with Jack, and we have several events that we have planned for next year in our educational business and in our land flipping business, and certain goals also of passive cash flow that we want to attain, broken down by passive income or passive cash flow that is going to come from land. Some of it is going to come from, rental homes, and some of those are going to come from large apartment buildings. So let me give you a little bit of behind the scenes in terms of the mindset that has gone into making the decisions. So the very first thing that I wanna mention is that normally, in making decision, mindset really comes before mechanics. And what I mean by that is that we know very often that if we were to, give two people with the exact same or similar talent, with the exact same experience and with the exact same opportunities, more than likely what you're going to see happen is that one of them is going to skyrocket in their results, and the other one will flounder. And the only reason why the second one flounders, in my opinion, is because of their mindset. And so I know that, as we ourselves, are trying to engineer our next level of success, we're looking into key investments and, decisions to make in terms of expenses, and investments that we're going to make in terms of new team that we're going to bring on board, new technology that we're going to invest in, new mentors that we're going to invest in, because there is always someone out there, a who that has already, the expertise that you're looking for, that has the experience that you're looking for. And we don't want to go out there and develop, all that expertise from scratch. We want to basically catapult us or do quantum leaps, in a single quarter that would otherwise take us years, to get to. And so that's why, we ourselves, as part of our 2021, planning, are also considering, strategic investments in terms of mentors, in terms of technology, in terms of people, that are going to come and help us accomplish those goals. So that's the number one thing that I want you to walk away with right now, is that mindset comes before mechanics. And if you were to give, two people the exact same task, more than likely one of them would flounder, one of them would skyrocket, and the only difference really will be mindset. And in order to help us understand why that one flounders and why that one, skyrockets, I want to basically talk to you guys a little bit about how we normally make decisions in terms of pleasure and pain. So we as humans are wired to either move away from pain or move towards pleasure. And what I mean by that is, that we are making decisions when there's pain involved. We have a fear, an innate fear of loss. And because of that innate fear of loss, we try to get away from that pain. Yeah. So that's scenario number one. Scenario number two is when we have the possibility of pleasure, we run towards that pleasure because of a possibility of gain. Yeah. So behaviors are driven, by either a fear of loss or the possibility of gain. And I have had to basically, right now, as we've been doing yearly planning, override certain decisions that I wasn't willing to make because of the fear of loss. And how was I able to override, that fear? Because fear, at the end of the day, it is healthy. Fear, can protect you from, passing through a red light, because either you or someone else could get killed or both could get killed. So fear in that situation is absolutely logical and rational and reasonable. Also, you pay your taxes, because if you don't pay your taxes and you evade taxes, you might end up in jail. So it is, that is a valid reason to pay your taxes, other than, as well, of course, being a good, responsible, citizen, in terms of contributing a little bit of what you have made in order for the whole to be able to enjoy certain benefits, like, paved freeways and good infrastructure and electricity available at all times. Since I come from a third world country, I do appreciate being here in the US and never have to worry about unreliable electricity or unreliable internet, or the fact that, my car is not broken because the streets are full of potholes and therefore you cannot even have freeways. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. And anyways, that's going on a different tangent. But so you make decisions and you decide that you're going to pay, your share of taxes. And of course, we all want to legally minimize, anything that has to do with paying taxes the right way. There's so many things or so many opportunities within real estate, to minimize legally, your tax liability using depreciation, from rental income properties or from large apartments and so on and so forth. And so you decide in any case, you decide that you're going to pay taxes because you don't want to be in jail. Yeah. So in that situation, fear is also good. So sorry, I went there in a little on a little rant here over taxes, but so you're making decisions based on that, yeah. And in that situation, it's okay to make a decision based out of fear, or the possibility of the loss of your freedom, because you're going to be put in jail. But when you are coming to a situation like we were up against right now as we were planning the year, in terms of marketing dollars that we're going to be spending, and investments that we're going to be making, I came and I bumped up against a decision where it was irrational for me to constrict, to contract, because there was no way that we wouldn't see an ROI on our investment if we went through with the decision. So this could be happening for you as well, and I'm going to give you a simple example. I am coming up against a renewal with one of my mentors. It is it's a $45,000 investment, and I'm like, I have seen so much, like 3,000 ROI on my investment, that I'm like, should I continue because I already saw an ROI on my investment? Or do I continue learning and modeling the best in that one space, in that one area, where it is not my genius, but I can tap into that person's genius and all of a sudden create quantum leaps, not only for myself, but also for my entire team and for the families that we're able to serve as well on both the buying and selling of real estate and in our coaching business as well. And so the possibility of gain, in terms of what it will mean for me to make that decision and make that investment, way overrides the fact that I would have to be actively and proactively trying to fail at not seeing an ROI on that investment in order for me to not see an ROI in that investment. And that is completely illogical and irrational. And so as a result of that, I am not letting fear get the best of me, and get myself stuck in a situation where I don't continue growing and I don't continue engineering my next level of growth, but instead, I'm willing to basically look at what my experience has been in the past, when I've made similar investments. And yes, there's been investments where I didn't see my ROI, not because the person or the technique or the strategy wasn't working, but because I didn't put the work that it required for me to see the ROI. So there were some disappointments there. Or I was trying to bite on something that was bigger than I could chew at that time. And therefore, I couldn't maximize really the potential that investment had. So those have been there, but those have been far fewer than the other way around, where I have taken massive responsibility, massive accountability, and ownership for the results that I want to get. So I know, so we decided, okay, part of our budgeting for 2020 will be going towards that renewal, will be going towards, bringing in more team members, will go into investing in technology to automate even much, much more, so that we can not just, create more, but actually do it in a smarter way, in an easier way. And so I want you to think about, as you are planning your 2021 and you're making decisions, because it's not just a matter of goals, of coming up with goals for the year, but attaching a dollar impact to those goals in terms of investments that you're going to have to make and what those investments are going to yield, but also who is going to help you create those impacts and minimize, the mistakes, minimize the failings, because there will be mistakes. There will be mistakes to be made, even if you are doing, everything possible in your environment to minimize them. It's the nature of life to come up against challenges that help us grow, that help us really see and expand, the potential that we have and push the boundaries of what's possible. It's part of evolution. It's part of everyday life, and they're never going away. And it's just a matter of how equipped and prepared and who do you have access to be able to overcome those quickly and easily, so that you're not stuck in the gap, moaning over months, weeks, some people even years, over a mistake that could have easily been mediated or shifted direction, or where you could have been realigned either in strategy, tactic, or in mindset to help you overcome those. So that is part, I think, of something that you very seldom hear when people discuss, creating a new year or yearly planning for the new year. And seldom do I hear people talking about, budgeting, about investments, in both, mentorship, in technology, in people that are going to come and help you out, or consultants that you're going to hire, to help you out. and what impact, what dollar impact that investment is going to create, for you and those goals, and making those goals a reality in much faster and much quicker, time frame, and with a bigger impact, not just dollar amount, but impact in terms of the quality of life of people that you're able to affect. A single decision, a single investment, for us, to decide, about 10 years ago that we wanted to start coaching others, that part of our own evolution, once you've had your needs of food, shelter, safety, love and connection, finances of your immediate family and extended family, is to start, looking outside of yourself for contribution. And when we decided to teach and share this with others, we also invested in figuring out, how are we going to reach, our audience? How are we going to market to them? How are we going to service them? How are we going to create basically an environment that makes us peerless in our industry, and that allows us to grow on just sheer results, not growth on sales, but because our results are speaking for ourselves and are therefore, creating a movement of people that are now looking into a very tiny niche that is otherwise overlooked, that nobody looks at. And it's been, a 10-year journey, and that I think would have taken us even longer if we would have not looked at mentors, in order to do this the right way, with the right vision, with the right mindset, with the right heart, with the right intention behind it, and so on and so forth. So as you plan your 2021, think about the fact that it's not just about setting a goal. It's not just about visualizing a goal, which is totally valid. I'm all for vision boards. I actually love the exercises of creating, the exercise of creating a vision board. We do it almost every year, for New Year's Eve. We sit down with a bunch of magazines and big, little whiteboards, one for each of us. And we visualize, what do we want, for the new year? Do we want, what trips do we want to take? What physical material goals do we want to achieve? What feelings do we want to experience that year, that upcoming year? Because it's not just about the financial goals or the tangible material goals, but what states of being do I want to, do I want to embody? It's not just the thinking, the acting, but also who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And in becoming that, what am I feeling? What states am I experiencing? And so on and so forth. So I'm all about vision boards, don't get me wrong. But visualizing, basically, it's only part of the process. The next one is actually acting on those visions. And when acting on those visions, it's making decisions that, are not easy, that are sometimes difficult, because we have this tendency of, our limbic brain taking over versus our neocortex, which sits in front of our brain, and making decisions from our limbic brain in fight or flight, from fight or flight perspectives versus from a rational perspective of like, okay, if I make this investment, what's the impact going to be? And what is the worst scenario? And the worst scenario is usually not even possible, an impossibility, unless you try your very hard at failing at that one goal. And so in that case, you make the decision anyways, you take the action anyways, is what I'm saying. And in the process of taking that action, you have changed and rewired how your brain is going to make decisions the next time around. So, so that fear override, when you're feeling it, acknowledge it. It doesn't mean that you're fearless. It means that you are making decisions out of complete self-awareness, out of a critical mind that you're using in your favor, not against you, where you are basically looking at, okay, what is the worst possible scenario if I do decide that this is one of the goals, and in order to achieve this goal, I'm going to have to make this decision. What are decisions that are preceding these goals that I'm going to have to make? Yeah, because with those goals come difficult decisions. And people don't realize that when setting up goals, but they come with that. It's part of that being on that ongoing process of becoming and evolving and engineering the next level of who you're going to be. Normally our external lives are a reflection of who we are inside to begin with. It's that saying of, how above, so below. Well, it's the same thing. How you are inside, that's how, things on the outside look. And I'm not saying that we deserve sometimes, horrible circumstances that are happening to us, that's just c'est la vie. It's part of life for some of us. But what I'm saying is that we, based on those cards that life has given us, we make the most out of those, and we move forward, and we move forward in faith, knowing that, we're not going to do ourselves wrong by trying to sabotage our own efforts, but that we're going to do everything that we can, that it's in our power to make sure that that goal, that we make the decisions and take the decisions that goal is going to require us, are going to require us to take and to make. So self-awareness, super important. I know inside of our coaching, of our coaching environment right now for land flipping, we've had so many students, so many people that are really chattering, the ceilings and breaking generational, I would say almost like curses of family trees, where, where that fear and that, limbic brain took over and did not allow them to engineer a next level of success. And we're kind of like rewiring that, and seeing them succeed is, I think, one of the most fulfilling experiences, at least, for myself, for my husband, Jack, for our entire, group of coaches, which are, the top 1% of land flippers here in the country. And so we couldn't be happier, I think, more fulfilled than seeing, those families affected, and future families being affected, because believe it or not, the decisions that you make and the actions that you take create this kind of aura, or this kind of energy that people in your surrounding pick up on, and that affects their cellular structure. I know I'm going out here on a limb, but hear me out. It affects their cellular structure. Have you gone into a room where there's been a lot of conflict? And even if you were watching a movie, for example, and you see a lot of conflict, a lot of violence going on, and you might have that movie on mute, you still have a sense of that violence and that aggressiveness. And that's because, your body, your eyes, your brain, every part of your cells in your body is picking up on that aggression. Yeah. And just like we pick up on the negativity, we also pick up on the positivity, on the courage of our decisions, on the, on the positivity of our decisions, on just the bravery of the actions that we take. Like, we leave an imprint in our environment, and our children are picking up on that imprint, and it's becoming part of their cellular memory as well. Yeah. So every time I do year planning, it's an experience. I need some time off. I need actually days prior to it of rest, so that I can make decisions from a place where I'm not in stress, because I think also, doing planning from a place of stress means that a lot of the decisions that your brain is going to be making are going to be made off of fight or flight, even though, there's no reason to fight. because there's no one is coming after us. We're not in a ring, in a boxing ring, and we don't need to fight because there's no tiger and there's no lion coming after us. So that's another recommendation that I would make, is that as you're planning your year for 2021, make sure you have a few days to kind of like settle into a more grounded state, and then do your yearly planning and do it from a space of, where you feel uplifted, you feel inspired, you feel in faith, and you're using, like I said, that front part of your brain, your neocortex, to imagine, to visualize, possibilities for you. That's the beauty of being human. And then don't stop there, but also, once you decide, what those dreams or those goals are going to be, you put them on paper and you decide, okay, what are certain decisions that are going to need to precede, these goals that I'm going to have to make, or certain investments that I'm going to have to make in order to make these a reality. And there again, make sure that the one that is, driving the bus is reason, is the voice of reason, is not the voice of fear. So that you don't get stuck in paralysis analysis, or you don't get stuck basically in a gap, and you can continue moving forward towards making your dreams a reality. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. It came, like I said, as a result of my own exercise and what I'm going through as I'm setting real tangible goals of actual dollars, and impact and people, and how I'm looking at that, not just from a very fiscal perspective in terms of P&L and bottom line, but also about the impact as I am recirculating that wealth and that abundance mindset, across families, across our 3 lines of business. So thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please go ahead and give me a 5-star review. If you could actually write and do a written review, that would be even most helpful. I would greatly appreciate it. Also coming up is we have on December 8th, we are having a online training to help you all close more land deals in 2021. So as you're preparing, your yearly goals, and you wanted to figure out what the top 1% of the land flippers are doing in our space, the best of the best, in order to close more land deals into 2021 in an environment where we're going to still be having COVID restrictions and so on and so forth. I would love for you to join us, and you can go to landflippingclass.com to join that. Landflippingclass.com, I believe, is a place where you can register. You can also join our Facebook group. It's going to be happening live inside of the Facebook group. It's going to be a 2-day class. And the Facebook group is Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Group. We would love to have you there as you prepare, and you are planning your 2021. It would be a great, I think, 2-day session to look at what the top are doing, the top 1% of the land flippers are doing, what is the latest and greatest, so that you can always be at the cutting edge of creativity, of what's working, not something that, worked 10 years ago, but of what's working right now. We would absolutely love to have you. So thank you for now, and until the next one. Bye-bye. I hope this episode left you feeling inspired and ready to get inflows of cash, inflows of light, and inflows of faith in your life. I welcome your reviews on iTunes. Please leave me a review and help me create an amazing community of women in flow. Thank you, as always, for sharing your voice by going to michellebosch.com and joining the conversation about this show. And while you're there, grab a copy of my 10 Commandments to Living a Life in Flow. You can also follow me on Facebook at Michelle Bosch and on Instagram at Michelle Bosch Official. Thank you very much, and until the next one.